Hey everybody, this is Dan.
And this is Ron.
This is a nominee questionable movies, and today it's a VIP episode, just Ron and I, and we're talking about a movie I have not seen in 10 years. I was just brainstorming movies like I usually do, and I remembered seeing a 1926 silent feature film uh, starring W.C. Fields called "So's Your Old Man." And I thought, like, by now this must be available on the internet because when I saw it in the theater, you couldn't find it anywhere.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, so I found a copy. We watched it, and well, we watched it twice. So there was an unusual screening process for this episode. I guess if Ron, maybe you want to elaborate.
um, yeah, we both watched it one evening, planning to record right afterwards. We were both not fully absorbed by the movie. How's that? For various reasons.
Yeah, I just driven for like 6 hours.
And I was super tired.
Yeah, so
So we were
I
both
sort
going
of
out
like
of this, and we realized afterwards, yeah, you know what? We're not recording tonight. But we both went back and watched the movie a second time, albeit sped up, three speed or three
oh
times.
I did two speed on mine.
Oh, you did two speed. Okay, all right.
Maybe a speed reader.
And it's a silent movie, so there's very little, dialogue that we have to follow of just the title cards. So yeah, so here we are, well rested, and not post 6 hour drive.
Are you ready for the hate mail segment of this episode?
Oh, I'm all about the hate mail.
Okay, it was better sped up. Maybe that's what George Lucas should have done for the Star Wars special editions, is just like play them twice as fast, and then you can sell twice as many tickets.
Would B. Arthur be funnier at twice the speed?
I think so. Benny Hill just gets funnier the faster you crank the film.
You're right. You got to crank the film fast and the music that goes along with it.
Funny fact.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you know what silver nitrate is?
Yes.
Okay, so they used to make, like, all the silent films were made out of it.
Right.
And so at the speed we watched So's Your Old Man run through a projector, it probably would have caught on fire. Because that's where most of the silent films went, is that they were like silver nitrate. It's basically like, it's like taking photographs on like a can of gasoline. That's why like 90% of the silent films are lost, because they just they literally just set on fire. And if there was like a fire at one of the archives for the studios,
mm-hmm.
It would go on. It would look like a Michael Bay movie or something. They just weren't really about fire safety back then.
Right.
Like in the town I grew up in, Saratoga, there used to be like 4 or 5 giant hotels. Like if Darth Vader was like building a Victorian style hotel to like get over the first Death Star being blown up, it would have been like any of these. And I think they all burned down by 1940, except for one that's left in the like center of downtown. And yeah, I remember I had to do a research project on that once for this zine that never ended up coming out, about like things that were probably arson that happened in Saratoga, New York. Like I was gonna do this. So like Saratoga, there's a racetrack there. There's a lot of gambling. There used to be a lot of mob activity, although I don't think there's really a whole lot of mob activity around here now. But in the 1920s, 1930s, Saratoga was considered the prostitution capital of the United States.
Wow.
Like more than like Nevada or Las Vegas.
Really?
Yeah. And there's like in the Saratoga room at the public library where they keep all the like history document kind of stuff. Like there's like numerous pulp fiction magazines with like, some girl with her stocking hiked up and it's like Saratoga women inside or whatever, right? Like And so I start reading through all the newspaper clippings they have in the file. And there were like 5 different brothels operating at different points in Saratoga, New York. And there's only ever like 2 stories about any of them. There's like somebody got caught at it. And then like 10 years later, it's like, oh, the building accidentally burned down every single time. And yeah, like we had to take a class. Well, it was an elective, but I took it where it was just Saratoga history for like half a semester in high school. And yeah, it's just like shit burning down.
Mhm.
And like Clark Gable shows up to make a movie there once called Saratoga Trunk.
What's it called?
Saratoga Trunk,
Okay. Any
which
good?
was a style of like luggage that people used to carry back then. I have never actually seen it.
That's a part of your hometown history.
So Saratoga is maybe the most like there's literally thousands of books about Saratoga.
Uh,
You would be shocked. Like that entire room is filled with shit in the library because it's where. So there's the Yaddo, which is like this artist retreat, and really really nice. There was this like love triangle between these 3 very rich people that all lived in Saratoga at the turn of the century, the turn of the 20th century, and the woman left all the money for there to be this artist retreat right outside of downtown Saratoga. And so there's just been a lot of writing about Saratoga because all these like any major writer of like literary fiction that you can think of from the last 50 years probably spent a summer at Yaddo.
uh. So, your old man. Do you want to talk about the story?
Yeah. So like W.C. Fields has a wife who looks kind of like if olive oil hadn't slept for like a week or two, and she's pissed off, and you can just kind of they never quite elaborate why she's or well okay they do elaborate why she's so pissed off, but you kind of get the sense she's like pissed off before the beginning of the movie, and you can kind of tell just from like the look on his face that like you don't want to be married to this guy,
Uh-huh.
and so he goes onto a train.
Wait.
Maybe I didn't fully.
Well, he makes the glass thing.
Oh yeah. He throws a brick through through 2 car windows because he invents this supposedly indestructible glass, and then decides to do his first and only test with a brick in
Right.
public.
And he
And
takes
then he
this.
does it again to somebody else's, like some rando's car.
Also, his daughter wants to marry this guy whose parents are really wealthy. Or were you going to get to that part?
You want to?
Sure. Okay, I'll continue. She's supposed to marry this guy who's really, really wealthy, or whose parents are really wealthy. So her mom, I'm sorry, her almost fiance's mom comes to visit her place and meet her mom. But W.C. Fields' family, they're really poor. I don't know how to describe this part. Hey, you do it.
Oh, okay. So he
I don't know
meets
how to describe it without making it sound so boring.
he meets a princess on a train.
No. His daughter not getting.
Oh yeah. There's like this standard like flapper girl marries pretty boy plot that's always on the periphery of these movies.
But in this case, it's really nice girl, really nice poor girl, and really nice rich boy.
Yeah.
And the
But
rich parents don't think well of the poor parents.
yeah, and I think like the plots for a lot of silent comedies aren't that. It's just like an excuse to get the person from place to place to do these gags. Like they're the like in any other movie with this plot, do you think they would have spent like 7 or 8 minutes watching a guy try to hit a golf ball? Right? Like that was like rake gag. That was beyond rake gag level.
Yeah, but for a lot of this, there was a bit of a story.
Mm.
And the two pieces actually fit in together.
Hmm.
It wasn't entirely arbitrary. Although actually what the gag that you were just describing did actually feel a little bit out of place. There was that and one or two others that just seemed out of place because suddenly the whole movie stopped to just focus on this one thing.
Right. And so I think that I'm almost wondering if they screened it kind of fast when I saw it in college. But the things that I remembered most from this movie before I watched it again this week were there's that sequence in the train where he's trying to kill himself with the rat poison, then he drops the rat poison, and then he's like watching the guy try to shave on a moving train, and then it just keeps cutting to the cemetery going by.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, now like that stuck with me. Like I think that's the only like silent or like physical comedy movie suicide gag I can think of outside of. Well, there's one other one. There's the very last Jerry Lewis movie that Lewis directed,
Uh-huh.
called Cracking Up. I think it's like 1982. It came out, and that at the beginning of that, there's just like all these really weird sight gags about him trying to jump out of a skyscraper.
Uh-huh.
Can't think of any other ones. I mean, like there's stuff where they like if they were doing it and we didn't know they were a silent film comedian, it would look like at least like horrific self negligence.
What do you mean?
Well, like the way these silent film comedians live, they don't take like insurance or bodily injury into account a lot of the time.
Right, right.
But Fields is pretty low key as far as silent comedians go. Like the wackiest gag in the film is the bricks getting thrown through the car windows.
Uh-huh.
Right? There's like no stunts.
There's no stunts. He seems like a normal person. He's just a guy. He could have been just as much one of the other actors who are more the straight men or background folks, except he's at the center. But he's not going around whacking people on the head, and people aren't whacking him on the head. It seems almost, yeah, all these funny things are happening, but it's just normal guy walking around. I don't know. I'm imagining.
He's really into frustration gags.
Mhm.
I think more than the other guys. And I just realized struggle gags is probably like an awful subreddit.
Struggle gags.
Well, okay, so like in physical comedy movies, there's like broadly three kinds of gags. And I'm pulling this out of my ass, but if anybody thinks of any more, leave them in the comments. So you have kind of the chase sequence gag.
Uh-huh.
Somebody gets mad, large groups start chasing somebody. That's in like half the silent movies, at least.
Okay.
Even some of the dramatic ones, they just love chase sequences in those movies. And so the second kind, I would say, are like unawareness gags. So like the person gets into some kind of physical danger, but they're not fully aware of it. So like Buster Keaton does a lot of those.
Okay.
And then there's kind of like the doofus gags where like Harold Lloyd does a lot of this, where you'll have two kind of straight men / like unsympathetic characters, and he's just kind of doing these funny movements to get the best of them.
Uh-huh.
And I guess there's a fourth kind, which is just sort of the physical grotesque, which is like a lot of Jerry Lewis.
Okay. Wait, so which one was the struggle gag?
The struggle gag would be. Oh, did I not get to the struggle? I thought I put the struggle gag in there. Like the person keeps trying to do something and they can't seem to do it for an absurdly long period of time. So like the rake gag on The Simpsons would be a struggle gag. Or like W.C. Fields trying to kill himself with the rat poison, but he can't do it. Or him trying to hit the golf ball for like 8 straight minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going through the movie and remember those things. Okay.
Yeah, like I mean, other ones I can think of. There's I forget which Jerry Lewis movie it is, but maybe it's like The Bellboy. This little kid comes in to order candy from behind the counter at this store, and he just keeps like almost dropping these giant glass jugs of candy.
Uh-huh.
And then I can't remember if he actually gives the kid the candy by the end, but
Oh, so just for the rest of the plot of the movie. So he meets a princess on the plane. He thinks that she's trying to kill herself too. He stops her. She wants to help someone. So she tries helping him now. She goes to the town, tells folks that she's his friend. He's the only one who thinks that she's faking. The townspeople love him now, and then even one of the investors, somebody invests in his windows, in his car
Mm.
windows, because they actually do work. He becomes a millionaire, so his family's now rich. His daughter's fiance's parents now like this family because they're rich,
Mm.
and everybody's all happy. And then at the end, we see W.C. Fields take off his suit, and so he's just wearing his undershirt and goes back to work on his inventions.
Mm.
So there's the movie, and it was better sped up.
That what?
So yeah, so the movie was better sped up 2 or 3 times. It was an hour
Yeah,
long.
it was like a much faster. Well, I mean, obviously, it was a much faster movie.
Right.
But yeah, and I felt like it gave this kind of experimental edge to the score too.
Yeah, the score was really neat, sped up like that. Oh, you should hear it 3 times.
Mm.
Yeah, experimental is a good word for it. But the visuals looked they looked more cartoony, but that put them in line then with a lot of, I was going to say pre-talkie silent comedies, that they have that kind of cartoony.
Ron's living in a post-hockey world.
A post-hockey world. No, the Hawk was
No, post-hockey.
a post-talkie world where everything's nothing but talk.
Well, now you have TVs that you can talk back to, and they do things.
Can I make him cry?
Probably.
Why are you showing me the Snyder Cut again? Sorry, I thought you
So
wanted
how
to
many
watch it.
times have you watched the Snyder Cut?
Oh God, I've lost. Let's see. Wait, that's one hand. That's two.
More than
I've,
one?
I've only seen it once.
Uh-oh.
I think I started watching again for 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh no, once was fine.
Was it as long as everybody said it was?
It's 4 hours long,
Is that like
but it needs to be 4 hours long. It was the appropriate length. It was it fixed a big problem with the original release, which is don't try to take a 4 movie and shove it into a 2.5 hour movie.
Was it a good movie though?
What was that?
Was it a good movie in either incarnation though?
It was a superhero movie.
Okay.
By what measure are we judging?
I mean, like, did you enjoy it? Did it like?
I enjoyed it.
Okay.
I enjoyed it as, and I think it's as good as a comic, not bad as a comic book movie.
Okay.
Not going to recommend to anyone who isn't a comic book fan to go watch this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was good.
So I saw the worst British detective show I've ever seen in my life, like a few days ago.
What's that?
Endeavor. It's just like it's like set in 1970. Everything just sort of like looks like what British people think people in the US want British people to look like.
Uh-huh.
Everybody's acting like they're on stage, but like in the worst way. Like they're standing across from each other in like an office or something, and they're like loudly enunciating all their words.
Uh-huh.
We have got in another report from the inspector. And like the whimsy is just like way like the guy who inspects the bodies, he shows up and he's like, oh my, she's not in tip top Louis O shapy doodle do, is she? I guess she's gonna have to move back her 9 o'clock appointment. And they're just like standing over a dead body. And I don't know, like, yeah, it was just like really it was just like a lot of it was like 30 minutes of boring exposition mirrored with like 30 boring minutes of resolution. Like it was just checking. I was setting up boxes to check off later, and like it, and then it just checked them all off in order. And it was just so unbelievably bad.
Hey, did it set up what it intended to do?
Annoy me?
No, it set up a bunch of boxes and then it checked off all those boxes. It did its job. It said, I'm going to do A, B, and C.
Mm,
And it gave you A, B, and C. It didn't say, here's A and B, but C, I don't know. That was a little too much work at that point. So
mm.
it,
It was, yeah, I don't know. It made me appreciate Columbo a lot.
were you told in the first 10 minutes what's going to happen so you could say, all right, I know the whole story?
Uh, well, they didn't show who did it, but it was really obvious by like 10 minutes in.
Uh-huh.
And they solved one of the mysteries through clairvoyance, and like only Twin Peaks gets to do that, because when people who aren't Twin Peaks try to have like it's a bad temptation in a murder mystery thing to have any kind of element of divination in your plot, because it just kind of looks like, well, I didn't want to come up with a mystery, so we're just going to have somebody see the answer.
Wait, did they do this a lot or this was a one-time thing?
I don't know. I only ever saw one episode of Endeavor, but I feel like I've seen other like supernatural detective shows where it's like, oh, the solution came to me in a dream.
But what does the solution mean? It's never that simple.
Wherever it come will come back in style.
What does that mean to you?
Nothing.
Hmm. So's your old man.
Yeah, so's yours.
It's
I
funny because the first time he says so's your old man, it's a way of saying, well, fuck you too.
mhm.
And the second time, so's your old man, it's when his daughter says something like, I'm really happy. And he says,
Right.
so's your old man.
Oh yeah, I think my favorite gag in the movie was when the giant crowd, like the princess comes looking for him,
Mhm.
and they find his wife, and they're like, "We have great news for you, Mrs. Bisbee," and it just says, "My husband's dead."
Yeah. This was a pretty dark.
Yeah, this is one of the darker silent comedies, I think. Like this and the Harry Langdon ones are really dark.
Hmm.
Like some of the Buster Keaton stuff, it's like dark if you think about it. Like the end of the general, he gets the girl, but then he's getting sent off to fight in the Civil War.
Yeah, but here it's very directly, hey, okay, I'm trying to kill myself now.
Right, right. And he's like he imitates a donkey up to the point of eating hay just to
Right.
get away from his wife. There's kind of a cliche in these movies that there's like a reason why somebody's like significant other is miserable.
Mhm.
If that makes any sense. Like there's a thing that can be resolved by the end of the movie where it's like, oh, I befriended a princess. Now my wife is no longer the bane of my existence. So like the general, like, I rode a train for an hour and a half. Now this like chick will go out with me, or like almost every other film. Although I think it's sort of interesting. I think Fields is kind of pitching himself as being older than a lot of the other comedians kind of pitch themselves as
Hmm.
in the 20s. Like the Harold Lloyd movies, he's pretty much always in his 20s, except for the one that he did with Preston Sturgis later in his life.
I watched that a few weeks ago, by the way.
Was it any good? I never saw it.
Yes, it's kind of funny.
Hmm.
Not the best Preston Sturges movie. I've only seen a tiny bit of Harold Lloyd, although it was neat that it starts off with his
Mhm.
one of his original movies, and then it takes that character and follows him 20 years later.
Mm. Yeah, I think that I've watched a decent number of Harold Lloyd movies. He's a bit more uneven than the other guys. Like, unless you start digging, there's a few like really unknown silent comedians where there's like only one or two shorts left.
Uh,
But yeah, I'd have to say in terms of the top four, I would Buster Keaton on the top, Chaplin as number two, Harry Langdon number three, and then like Lloyd number four.
okay.
Um, and Fields, as far as I mean, I'm sure there were other silent W.C. Fields movies or comedies. This is the only one that I've ever seen. there's a movie he did with D.W. Griffith and Lillian Gish called Sally of the Sawdust that's supposedly pretty awful that I never saw.
Okay.
But yeah, I'll have to look into whether there's other.
Oh, so when you told me about him doing silent movies before, I thought it was plural.
Well, I mean,
I thought he was
Sally
a
of
big-
the Sawdust was silent. I think.
No, I meant I thought he was a big silent movie star that then also then made it into
I don't know a whole lot about his life. I don't think he really hit the peak of his fame though until the 30s.
Okay. That feels a lot more in line with what I'm with a little bit that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, because he didn't like. I think he's most famous for being in those David Lean Dickens adaptations.
Mm.
But yeah, there's a few shorts. Criterion, I don't know if they still have it in print, but they did like a collection of 6 of them.
Okay.
The one I'm kind of remembering is The Last Beer. Like, there's definitely a Chaplin influence on the stuff in So's Your Old Man, and definitely the stuff in The Last Beer. I think that was a kind of interesting thing going into this, is that this is the only like silent comedian, silent film that I've seen that I can. At least the Langdon ones would fall under this too, where it's sort of a second generation of silent film stars. Like they're starting to build off of like what Chaplin, Keaton, Arbuckle, etc. were doing beforehand, and then silent movies just ended.
Mm-hmm. Wait, so you're putting him in that category?
Yeah. Like there seem to be. He has a different character, but the structure of the gags seems like pretty Chaplin-ish.
Uh-huh. Wait, what year was this?
This was 26, so this would have been the early Chaplin and Keaton shorts came out about 10 years prior to this.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I don't have much to say about this movie.
There's not a whole lot to say. I mean, silent comedy.
Well, we got a lot out of which Chaplin did we talk about?
Oh, the Gold Rush, yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot. A lot came of that one.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, maybe I should have read some like biographical stuff on Fields before we did this.
We could do that. By we, I mean collectively we, which means you go read it, and then you come back and tell me about it.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to talk about in this movie. I guess most silent comedies will end like with a happy ending of some sort.
Yeah.
I can't think of any where it like ends on a complete down note. I thought his daughter was kind of cute. She's probably like a little too old or too dead for me now, but
let's see. This came out. His daughter is now about 110, 120.
So what you're telling me is like she knows her way around the bedroom.
Yeah, she's probably about 110. I'm screwing up my math, I think. But somewhere around there. In the early 100s.
See the early 100s. You know, it's a glass half full, half empty kind of thing.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. What else? I think that's it.
I think that might be.
There's
not a lot to this movie.
And it's not a bad movie. It's perfectly.
No, it's a funny movie. The gags are very good. There's just not like W.C. Fields is like he feels certain ways about certain things. He gets chased around a little bit. I feel like the Keaton movies I could talk about a lot longer than this.
Uh-huh.
So I guess what other media have you consumed in the last week or two?
All right, Dan, I think we should do the sign off.
Wow, is that bad?
This is well, we're done talking about the movie. That doesn't seem like we spent enough time on it. So yeah. What's the weather like out there?
The weather is dark and foreboding. I sold 500 CDs this morning.
Wait. Let's do the sign off, then tell me. So that I can at least just stop recording.
Okay, I'm still Dan,
And I'm still Ron.
and this has been Anomaly Questionable Movies. Today we talked about
Wait.
So's Your Old Man with W.C. Fields, and I feel like today was especially questionable. Ron is coughing, laughing.
We have we have to record it again because I actually I know what I'm going to do with it. Okay, yeah. Okay, I'm done laughing. You can
And I guess you listeners are done laughing too.
Was there anything left to the sign off?
Stay classy,
Yeah.
everyone on Earth.
Yeah.
That's everybody who listens to us.
All right, take care everyone.
Later.